This is unreal.
The weather, an uncontrollable force, giving us life and taking it away. As our planet heats up, the weather is getting more extreme.
Guys, we've got cars floating again.
More terrifying.
Avalanche!
And even more catastrophic.
If you're the praying type, please just pray for us, because this is really scary.
With incredible self-shot footage.
I thought Titanic came into my head.
From the front line of fear.
The biggest challenge we have is going against Mother Nature.
It's an extremely challenging environment.
We witness firsthand.
What I was feeling was burning from inside out.
The wrath of Mother Nature.
I was saying everything's going to be okay, even though in my head I knew that was a lie.
I'm getting out of here.
It's like your brain doesn't understand what you're seeing.
From twisted tales of terror.
I don't want to die in my store.
Death was right around the corner.
Earth-shattering natural disasters.
It's an earthquake.
You're dicing with danger. If you're in their way, you die.
And stories of sheer destruction.
Oh my God!
It's all gone.
It looks like World War II.
We meet the people who've stared death in the face.
We're not going to get out of this alive.
And survived the full force of the world's deadliest weather.
Really kicking our ass.
Coming up in this episode. Raging floods tear through Maryland.
I cannot believe this is happening to us.
Leaving residents with nowhere to run.
We were literally trapped.
In the Himalayas, a couple stranded in a blizzard battle for survival.
Dipakshi and I were looking at each other and were thinking that what have we done?
And a crew on the round-the-world boat race are caught off guard by a rare weather phenomenon.
A southerly buster is not predictable. We were just being thrown around and very much at the mercy of the conditions.
Ellicott City, in the heart of central Maryland, USA. Its historical and picturesque Main Street is home to cafes, art galleries, and antique stores, including one owned by 75-year-old Joan Eve.
I have been in the antique business, actually, 23 years. I started in 1996. I always loved old things. I loved when customers came in and they wanted to get a specific type of furniture or a piece of glass. We had some history to give them, which made it special.
Built at the bottom of a hill, the town of Ellicott City is prone to flooding from the Patapsco River. And in 2016, it suffered a catastrophic event.
Oh my God!
Responding to the disaster was Matt Zulik from the Howard County Fire Department.
2016, that was one of the most significant events I've ever responded to. Destroyed infrastructure, and hundreds of people were displaced from their homes. As a responder, we learned that there's a lot of access issues. Water is flowing down in between two buildings opposing each other. The only access to a lot of parts of that main street was the rooftops.
Joan's store was destroyed in the flood. But on Memorial Day, May 2018, she's open for business once again.
Okay, an updated version of my new venue.
Working with her is her long-term friend Gary Weltner.
The shop was beautiful. Everything had been cleaned and prepared for the weekend. Then suddenly, by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it started to rain. I looked out the front door, and I saw that the rainwater was bypassing the drains, and it was starting to come up on the sidewalks.
A sudden thunderstorm sweeps into Ellicott City. And in a Victorian tea house on Main Street, celebrating her niece's birthday, is mum of three, Samira Mukhtar.
It wasn't raining heavily at all. It was like just a little drizzle, and then it got a little bit heavy. And then the flood just happened.
The rain intensifies with terrifying speed, causing widespread panic and frantic calls to the emergency services.
Howard County 911, what's the location of your emergency?
It's flooding inside there, you said? Is anybody trapped in there?
All of Main Street is flooded, so just hang tight, stay as high as you can, okay?
The rainfall overwhelms the town streams and sends a river of water gushing down the hill, straight towards Main Street and Joan's newly refurbished store.
It's our feet, and it's gonna come in now, Gary. Water was actually coming in through the bottom of the front door. Gary said, you know, Joni, this is starting to look like a problem.
As the deadly flash flood roars through the town, watching the mayhem on Main Street is bartender Rachel Kahal.
Here we go again, everybody. Trash cans that started floating down the street, and the water just kept rising and rising and rising.
Oh no, the ashtray! Lost our ashtray.
Got up to the step on our front doorway. It just happened so fast. Guys, we've got cars floating again. It was bigger than even the 2016 flood. Part of it, I think, was disbelief. Like, here we go again. Are you freaking kidding me?
The unrelenting floodwater is now 8 feet deep and funneling down Main Street, threatening to overwhelm the usually tranquil tea house.
The tea room, which looks very fancy, all the tables are set. I think that's the contrast between the horror out there and to this fantasy like setting on the inside. It was just like a raging river, you know, and with all the debris, like, you couldn't survive that.
The ferocious flood pours into the antique store as Joan and Gary desperately battle to rescue precious items.
I said to Gary, just move that beautiful bar piece of furniture that was in the front of the store because the gentleman had already paid for it, and it was expensive.
Water was beginning to come through the floor and fill up the back portion of the building. The construction of the building was not strong enough to contain the volume of water, and suddenly the back left corner of the building blew out.
The showcases were actually coming down like a domino effect.
We were literally trapped.
Later, there's horror and heroism as residents are forced to escape Main Street's violent floodwaters.
You know, you see this kind of stuff happen on TV and you never think it's gonna happen to you.
I knew that I had to not just save myself, but I had to save my friend.
I said to him, I don't want to die in my store.
The Clipper race is an endurance test like no other. It's a 46,000-mile round-the-world race on a 70-foot yacht, where sailors battle high seas, unpredictable weather, and dangerous storms. Among the group of everyday people who take up this challenge is marketing consultant Rory Rind.
The round the world clipper race is very unique because somebody without any experience whatsoever, had never stepped on a boat before, can become a round the world sailor.
In 2017, Rory signs up for the challenge, fully aware that it isn't all going to be plain sailing.
It's an extreme sport, and like any extreme sport, there are dangers, and everyone that takes part in the clipper race is aware of that, and for that reason, we undergo a lot of training.
In the race's 23-year history, there have been 3 fatalities. And despite extensive training, taking on Mother Nature is a dangerous gamble.
Out on the open sea, weather is something that you work with and battle against every day, and you never take it lightly and you never take it for granted. In very rough conditions, one is thrown around the boat. That's a pretty regular occurrence.
Being able to predict what extreme weather conditions the team may face is a crucial task, and one that falls to race director Mark Light.
We monitor the weather every day while the yachts are at sea. We monitor it remotely. With weather forecasting techniques these days, most weather patterns and systems are relatively predictable, but certain areas in the world, less so.
One such area is around the south coast of Australia. With the constantly changing conditions, it's one of the most inhospitable parts of the planet. Just off the coast of Sydney, Rory is on the 4th leg of the race.
We were either first or second, I think, at that stage. We were very happy with our position, we were happy with the way we were racing. And then we started seeing a cloud build up and the wind drop. We were concerned about this cloud that was building up, and so the watch leader said, look, could you go down and speak to the skipper, get him to come and have a look at this cloud. He came up and saw the clouds and issued some instructions, but then the wind picked up a bit.
The stormy conditions mark the arrival of an extreme weather phenomenon called a southerly buster.
It's essentially a cold front, a mass of cold air moving up from the south, changing the wind direction by up to 180 degrees. And wind speed can go from 15, 20 knots all the way up to 50, 60 knots, and waves up to 50, 60 feet. And all this can happen in seconds. It's very, very intense.
We knew there was going to be some high winds coming, but nothing that we got in the forecast would indicate a southerly buster. But a southerly buster is not predictable, and that's part of the problem. The wind was very strong. It felt like it was coming from every direction. The water was coming in from both sides, just pouring over everybody. One forgets just how much power there is in a wave.
It's no mean feat battling huge waves and high winds, as this fishing vessel off the coast of Norway is discovering. Taking refuge below deck, the fishermen struggle to remain seated during the commotion. Leading to some impressive gymnastics. And no doubt this stomach-churning ride leaves all crew reaching for the sick bucket. These rowers off the coast of Queensland, Australia, are aboard a surfboat, which is designed to enter the seas in heavy surf. But the rowers are caught off guard by a rogue wave, which suddenly breaks in their path. And their boat capsizes, sending them flying overboard. Despite the violent impact, the crew sustain only minor injuries and are able to recover the stricken boat. But it's not just the open ocean that can prove deadly. A sudden and powerful wind vortex has developed on this lake in China and moves across the water at great speed, ripping roofs off boats and tossing them like toys. One tug's tipped over entirely. Then the twister sets its sights on these terrified tourists. Luckily, despite taking a direct hit, they all escape unharmed. Off the coast of Australia, Rory Rind and his crewmates are battling a ferocious southerly buster, which is threatening to capsize their 70-foot yacht.
We were at not 90 degrees, but pretty close to 90 degrees, so it's very difficult to move around. The main concern was just getting the sails down and getting some control over the boat. But trying to work in those conditions when the boat is being thrown all over the place and trying to hold on and work at the same time is very difficult. One of the crew got thrown from one side of the boat to the other. We were just being thrown around and very much at the mercy of the conditions.
The only hope for Rory and the rest of the crew is to work together to fight back against the brutal buster.
It's amazing how much the training kicks in. At that stage, you realise certain things have to be done, and it's just a case of getting on and do them. So you don't really have time to think too much other than the task that you need to achieve. And we just got on with it. Without teamwork, the situation would have been a lot worse. It's very possible we might have not recovered the boat.
Eventually, Rory and his crew win the battle against the buster and save their clipper from capsizing.
After we recovered it, the first feeling was elation. It was just an amazing feeling that we'd been through it. Afterwards, one starts feeling a little bit exhausted because of the amount of effort that it's taken to do it, and it's the day later that you feel all the bruises.
And unfortunately for Rory and his crewmates, it's not just their bodies that take a beating.
We'd lost a lot of time in the race because we'd taken our sails down, we'd slowed down, we'd had to then get our sails back up and start racing again. We lost a couple of positions and we lost a bit of time, but it just brought us even closer together because we'd achieved something as a team. And that was something that we all felt very strongly about and very good about.
Rory and his team went on to claim third place in the race. They also gained a greater understanding of the power of Mother Nature.
It's always important to get as much information before you set sail and get as much information while you're sailing because the weather can change and the weather has an immense effect on sailing conditions and safety, so one treats weather with a huge amount of respect.
Still to come. It's a matter of life or death.
I cannot believe this is happening.
For the people trapped in Ellicott City's raging floodwaters.
Gary said to me, "We're gonna get out of here. Just hold on tight and do not let go."
And a kayaker gets the shock of his life.
Oh my God, it was right there.
The Himalayas, a mountain range extending for 1,500 miles and bordering 5 countries. In September 2018, Anurag Dixit and his fiancée Deepakshi set off on a spontaneous motorbike adventure through the mountains.
One day we decided and the next day we left. Nothing's gonna go wrong. We're gonna make this road trip memorable for us before getting married.
We love traveling and we love mountains, so we thought that will be a perfect place for our pre-wedding photo shoot.
Okay, we are on a very good road trip. And this is gonna be fun because we knew that we're gonna encounter snowfall, but we knew that the snow will fall only for a few hours.
Anurag and Deepakshi start their Himalayan adventure in Manali and plan to travel over 75 miles to Chandra Tal. Along the way, they decide to stop overnight in Batal.
On the way to Batal, we experienced a little bit of weather change.
There was cold winds, like very, very cold winds. We reached Buttle at around 8 p.m. in the night.
When we went to sleep, it was very peaceful. There was no wind, the sky was clear, you could hear the insects chirping.
Next morning around 7 or 8, it's snowing outside. And we were like, wow. Just before our marriage, we are seeing snow together. Okay, that was a romantic time for us. So we woke up to a view like this. But soon after an hour or so, I saw that the snow has actually started settling on the ground. And that went on as an alarm in my mind that I think we need to leave this place.
Due to the weather conditions, the couple decide to cut their trip short and go back the way they came.
The snow was entering into my helmet and was getting stuck on my glasses. Soon after I took off my glasses, the snow was coming to my eyes. My hands were getting very, very cold, and on my left thumb there was small frostbite. Within a minute, bike tires had started slipping on the road. And we were just expecting that snow will stop, but it didn't stop. That was the time when Dipakshi and I were looking at each other and were thinking that what have we done?
As the weather worsens, the couple have no choice but to stop and seek shelter.
We found shelter under the rock. I was just recovering from pneumonia, so I had started wheezing a lot.
I decided to burn some clothes to keep ourselves warm, at least our hands warm.
At risk of freezing to death by the roadside, Anurag and Dipakshi fortunately encounter some good Samaritans.
They came from nowhere, they came on the same road, and they were the last ones coming from that road. After us and after them, there was no one.
The couple's rescuers take them to a remote guest house where they shelter along with 40 others in temperatures of -15.
After opening the door, there was around 4 to 5 feet of snow. We got ourselves stranded there. People started panicking about the fact that they weren't able to contact anyone.
When heavy snow hits, it can leave you trapped, like in the French Alps. This ski resort was hit with 16 inches of snowfall overnight. With the roads closed, there's no way down the mountain, leaving most of the holidaymakers stuck in their chalets. In northwest China, an avalanche has buried coaches and cars on a motorway, trapping 10 people. A truck-mounted snowblower helps rescuers gain access. And after a couple of hours, those trapped can be rescued. Thankfully, there were no reported casualties. In New York State, thousands have been snowed in after a storm.
There's my car right there.
Snowplows take to the streets to clear it up.
Don't kill my car. Oh my God. That's so much snow.
But due to the mega snow dump, even the snowplow is struggling. Back in the Himalayas, Anurag and Dipakshi are trapped by the snow in a remote guest house with 40 other people. With morale and supplies rapidly diminishing, they're pinning all their hopes on a rescue.
I think there was easily 5 feet of snow and we were scared. We decided to fly the drone in 2 different directions and try to find out if there's a way out. We were in a situation where we were literally trapped.
I haven't seen this much snow in my life. Like, it was too much for me. It was evilish for me. It was like, it's unstoppable. It's the payback from nature.
No telephones were working. There was no signal at all. There was very limited food, so we had to watch every meal we ate. There was no water, so we had to use the snow fresh snow outside to melt them and make actually water out of them. Because it was so cold, it took almost an hour to warm like a jug full of water.
They are trapped in the snow for 4 days and have no contact with the outside world.
I was tested mentally, I was tested physically, I was tested even emotionally because Dipakshi was sitting behind me. She was suffering from pneumonia, she was feeling cold, and that was a time I was tested like to the extreme.
But their luck is about to change.
That's when we heard this sound of choppers, fins hovering in the sky.
And that's when they dropped biscuits, water and warm socks. And we saved the biscuits because we didn't know when the weather would go bad again and when the helicopters would come again.
Rescue helicopters are unable to land and pull them to safety. After 2 more days, the Indian Air Force arrive.
We were all just standing there dumbfounded, just looking at the helicopter. One of the officers got down. He said only women and children. And I think I was almost the second last one to be on the helicopter because I was very stubborn. I was being very stubborn. They would come back for the boys later, but how much later, we had no clue. So the helicopter was hovering a few centimeters above the ground, which was again very risky in itself because it was getting windy and the helicopter was shaking quite a bit. And there was a lot of snow, flowing around in the air because of the wind. So it was getting in your eyes.
Soon that chopper took off. Deep inside I was actually feeling that Dipakshi is going very far from me. That was heartbreaking for me. And soon the chopper disappeared.
After not knowing if he would see Dipakshi again, Anurag waits another agonizing 24 hours to be rescued. When the helicopter returns, he's flown to hospital where Dipakshi was receiving medical treatment for pneumonia.
Just went to hug him and I cried my eyes out. I was like, oh God, you're here, we're safe.
Thankfully, there is a happy ending. They both recover and marry later that year. But it's an experience they will never forget.
What it has taught us to adapt to a situation. Will we die? Will there no rescue come for us? Rather than taking it all like that, just live one moment at a time.
I think somewhere, someday in my previous years, I must have disrespected nature in some way. I mean, it will come to you, it will hit you hard and it will make you understand. Don't underestimate it.
Back in Ellicott City, USA, it's a devastating case of déjà vu. As a lethal flash flood tears through the town.
It was just like a raging river.
For the second time in nearly 2 years.
Guys, we've got cars flooding again. It was bigger than even the 2016 flood.
It is destroying everything in its path, including Joan Eve's antique store.
It was so powerful, it sounded like almost like explosions, a constant explosion.
With furniture crashing all around them and the water level rapidly rising, Joan and friend Gary are now in mortal danger.
One of the most horrific moments was when the 6-foot-tall, 6-foot-wide glass showcase fell in the direction of my friend.
It was close.
I realized that if this shop were to fill up like an aquarium, we had nothing to hold on to. We were literally trapped.
I said to him, I don't want to die in my store. I didn't want to drown in my store.
The Howard County Fire Department's water rescue team arrives at the scene. But the fast-flowing flood makes accessing Main Street impossible.
When we got there, we knew that this was another significant event. It's frustrating. We do as much as we can, but you feel, in a sense, helpless. Obviously, we're continually scanning and working and trying to position ourselves to help as many people as we can. But there's a certain amount of waiting and watching with floodwaters of that magnitude.
For those in buildings, the only chance of survival is to scramble to higher floors.
I cannot believe this is happening to us.
Including Samira and her family in the tea house.
We could see the water level rising, and the window on the other side of the tea house that faces at the back, there's this tiny little alley that curves around. It looked very dangerous. The water had risen all the way to the window ledge. And that's when you realize that people could actually die.
Bartender Rachel, her colleagues and customers all head for the safety of a second-floor balcony.
The only way to get upstairs is through the kitchen. It's just an absolute disaster. One of our giant restaurant fridges is on its side and floating. And then I lean over to see into the dining room, and I just see water rushing in through one of the windows. Devastation throughout the bar. We were all standing on the balcony just kind of watching the water roar by, looking at the different buildings and seeing how much water was in them and wondering if anybody was in there. It was really scary.
Meanwhile, Joan and Gary are preparing to make a daring escape from the flooded antique store.
My instinct said that we needed to get out. It was a question of how to get out. I knew that I had to not just save myself, but I had to save my friend.
The water itself was frightening. It was light brown, deep, and flowing so fast, we had no idea whether we were going to get carried away in it. The main things that Gary said to me that I will never forget is, Joni, just hold on to me. We're going to get out of here. Just hold on tight and do not let go. And those words will never leave my mind.
Gary forces his way out of the front door, and together he and Joan step out into the rushing waters in an attempt to cross a bridge and get to safety.
When we stepped out into the water, the velocity and the volume of the water was overwhelming. My biggest fear was being washed away. We started our journey holding on to whatever we could grab onto. I kept telling Joni to please keep your head above the water, because by this time, the water was up to our chin.
Howard County 911. Yes, there are two people trying to get out, and they're almost above their heads across the Tiber River. Are they trying to walk across Main Street or walk across that bridge there? Trying to walk across the bridge. It's a woman in a red sweater and a man.
Heroically, Gary battles through the torrent of floodwater and carries Joan across the bridge to safety.
We just hugged and kissed, and we're so glad we made it.
The floodwater finally recedes, but the city's main street has been reduced to rubble and ruins.
When we finally were able to leave, I just walked out and saw the utter destruction. You couldn't go anywhere. The bridge was blown out. The street was still knee-deep in water. The road to get out of that hill was washed out and covered in trees. I think all I felt was shock and disbelief.
It felt really strange. It felt like you just woke up from a dream because, we went down the stairs and we could see the bottom level was completely wrecked. It is really startling to see the place torn apart like the way it was.
Oh, this is terrible.
Joan's antique store has been destroyed for the second time in nearly 2 years, and she is heartbroken.
Oh my God, That was the reaction of seeing everything so destroyed. And all the effort and all the love that went into my business.
I'm looking toward the back of the store, but there is nothing. I mean, literally, all the cases are gone. I'm gonna cry while I'm doing this. It's just sickening. It's really sickening. There's Gary walking through.
The Memorial Day downpour was billed as a once-in-a-thousand-year event. 2 months of rain was dumped on Ellicott City in just 2 hours. And the destruction to the town was devastating. Tragically, one person was killed after being swept away by floodwater.
We were very close to having several more people that potentially would have been killed because they were swept away. But they were fortunate enough to grab a telephone pole or to be swept into a safe area instead of the main flow and down into the river. The water has so much force that it will knock you off your feet and you're on your back before you know it.
And once again, the residents of Ellicott City are left picking up the pieces of their lives.
I'm grateful that we have an upstairs, because if we didn't, I'm not sure any of us would have survived.
I've been saddened by what's happened, but I'm still here, and I'm really grateful. We can never really stop the power of Mother Nature.
Life is full of changes, and in order to survive mentally and physically, you have to just go with those changes. Get that smile back on your face and know that you're alive and you're glad to be alive. I am so pleased that we became friends because in the end, he is my truest friend. Saved my life.
Thunderstorms at sea can be unpredictable and intense. And during a storm, there is no deadlier place to be than out on open water, as ocean kayaker Rob Choi is about to find out.
My passion has been kayak fishing for many years now. You're in with the nature. I'm literally sitting on the water. You get to feel it. It's raw, it's intense, and it's addicting, to be honest.
Rob is fishing in Chesapeake Bay, an estuary bordering the American states of Maryland and Virginia.
The plan was to head out about 3 miles, catch some fish, and then bring a couple home for dinner with the kids. I was fishing the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, and in the summertime in Virginia, especially southeastern Virginia, we have just cells that pop up of different storms. It's usually in the afternoon because it starts off nice, and then as the heat gets more intense, storms tend to pop up. So I thought I would take a chance, and even if there is a storm, it's usually not that bad.
Rob is 3 miles from shore when the skies start to darken.
When I go out on the water, I usually have a radio, and also I bring my cell phone. On the cell phone, I have a couple of apps to check different radar, wind speed, and if there's any storms approaching.
But the weather app shows that a huge storm is forming and heading straight for him.
You can see the shoreline, and then not a minute later, you can't see the shoreline whatsoever, and it's approaching very quickly.
There's no time to escape, and Rob has no choice but to simply ride out the storm.
Tucked myself under the bridge, and before I knew it, it started getting worse and worse. It was getting darker and darker.
Battered by driving wind and rain, Rob is exposed to all the elements.
The wind is just so intense. There's water going in every direction, it's coming down. It's almost like it's coming from underneath you sometimes. I have to wipe my eyes constantly to be able to see just what the waves are about to do in front of me.
And he's now vulnerable to an even deadlier hazard. Lightning.
It it was so important for me to stay under that bridge and stay close to the structure, because I feel like if I was out in the wide open water, I feel like that would make me a lightning magnet. I was like, oh my God, it was right there.
One lightning bolt can channel 1 billion volts of electricity. And it's estimated that around 6,000 people are killed by lightning strikes every year. Water conducts electricity. So you're dicing with danger if you're out on open water during a lightning storm. Like these sailors braving a hailstorm off the coast of Croatia. But it's not just huge hail they have to watch out for. There's excitement and high spirits. But the nearby boat was nearly toast. In Australia, this photographer is trying to capture a lightning storm. Adjusting the camera just feet from the ocean, he's in a vulnerable spot. Lightning strikes the water, then shoots through the man's hand.
Oh, I felt that!
He's left scorched and bruised, but lucky to be alive. In Florida, tourists are taking a rainy river cruise. Suddenly, their tranquil trip is interrupted by a bolt out of the blue. It's a close call, but those on board just seem relieved that they've caught it on camera.
The first part of it. I think I did.
In Bali, these travelers are visiting during the rainy season. They wait by the swimming pool for a storm to pass. But a bolt of lightning hits the pool. And gives the tourists a massive shock.
Oh my God!
Back in Chesapeake Bay in the US, kayak fisherman Rob Choi is stuck in a severe lightning storm.
The lightning is absolutely terrifying when you're out in the water like that and it just hits. The hair on your arms are just standing on end. Your adrenaline is just flying through your body. It's very, very intense.
The wind dies down, and Rob thinks his ordeal is over. But Mother Nature isn't finished with him yet.
And then all of a sudden, there was another lightning strike right behind me and just completely shook me all over again.
After 15 minutes of relentless lightning strikes, the storm finally passes.
I do feel quite lucky, especially after having looked back on the footage. There were multiple lightning strikes very close. This could have gone very bad. I was a little arrogant, I'll be honest, that I've been doing it for a long time, I'll be fine. I took a risk I shouldn't have taken. This storm popped up and it was extremely intense, and I'm lucky to have survived it.
Bad weather can strike anytime, anywhere, bringing upset and misery to people's daily routines. But somehow, life goes on. Uppsala, Sweden, and heavy rain is causing chaos for commuters. But nothing can dampen the Swedes' spirits. As they turn this flooded train station into a makeshift swimming pool. Bringing colourful floats and inflatables, these tenacious travellers are proving that commuting can be fun, whatever the weather. In the Philippines, one bride's white wedding has turned more a muddy brown. Less than 24 hours after Typhoon Usman brought heavy rain, flooding and landslides to the area, the happy couple's big day was more of a wedding washout. But despite Mother Nature crashing the party, the courageous couple show they're not a pair of stick-in-the-muds, and that love really does conquer all. In Burnett, Texas, even a flash flood can't come between a Texan and his takeout. With garbage bags as his get-up, the practical pizza lover wades his way across. Transaction complete, he hurries back to get stuck in. Clearly, there's no topping his determination. If anyone can turn a crisis into a carnival, it's these two friends in Roraima, Brazil. While working their way across the Amazon, their truck becomes marooned in the mud. But even a sticky situation can't sink their spirits, proving that for Brazilian people, the party never stops. Cheeky. In this episode, we've seen Mother Nature take no prisoners. We've seen her pounce without warning. We've seen her terrorize, tear apart, and trap. And next time, there will be more, because deadly weather stops for no one.